Brothers and sisters, when should someone be baptized? Scripture gives us three clear principles that answer this question, and when we examine them honestly, the conclusion becomes undeniable. Baptism is for those who have reached accountability, autonomy, and the appointed time to receive their inheritance. When Israel rebelled at Kadesh Barnea, Numbers 14:29 records, God's decree, everyone, 20 years old and upward, would die in the wilderness for their rebellion, but everyone under 20 would enter the promised land. Why? Deuteronomy 1:39 explains, they had no knowledge of good and evil. The Hebrew yada means experiential knowledge, not just intellectual awareness. God drew a line and said, below this point, I do not hold people accountable because they lack moral consciousness. This was divine judgment establishing a principle. Paul understood this when he wrote in Romans 7:9, I was once alive apart from the law. But when the commandment came, sin came alive and I died. There was a time before accountability awakened. If God doesn't hold children accountable yet, why would they need baptism, which addresses the guilt we're held responsible for? Second, even exceptional maturity must wait for autonomy. At age 12, Jesus sat among the teachers and all who heard him were amazed at his understanding. Luke 2:47. Yet, verse 51 tells us he was submissive to them, placing himself under authority. He continued to grow in wisdom and in stature until being baptized at 30 when his ministry began. Luke 2:52, 3:23. God in human flesh, sinless and exceptionally mature, still honored the waiting period under parental authority. Why? Because baptism requires genuine autonomy to fulfill what you're committing to. Paul describes being buried with him so that we too might walk in newness of life. Romans 6:3-4. The Greek peripatisomon is volitional, continuous action, active commitment to independently walk in holiness. Every baptism in Acts confirms this. Those who received his word were baptized. Acts 2:41. When they believed, they were baptized. Acts 8:12. Autonomous belief always precedes baptism. Children lack autonomy. They cannot independently attend church, sustain faith without support, or practice beliefs if opposed. We wouldn't trust them with legal contracts or financial decisions. Why ask them to commit to representing God when they have no power to independently fulfill it? Third, Scripture uses inheritance language to explain baptism's timing. Galatians 4:1-2, the heir, as long as he is a child, is no different from a slave, though he is the owner of everything, but he is under guardians and managers until the date set by his father. The Greek epitropos, kai, oikonomos are legal terms, estate managers who control inheritance until the heir reaches maturity. The child is the heir, owns everything, but cannot access it until the appointed time. This describes children of believers perfectly. One believing parent makes children hagios, holy. 1 Corinthians 7:14. Jesus declared the kingdom belongs to children, present tense, Matthew 19:14. When David's infant died, he said confidently, I shall go to him. 2 Samuel 12:23. Your children are already heirs, already holy, already possess the kingdom, but they remain under guardians until the date set by the Father, until they reach maturity to personally appropriate what's already theirs. Baptism is that moment when the heir is ready to receive, to exercise autonomous free will, to transition from parental covering to personal covenant relationship. Some point to infant circumcision, but Paul calls it flesh mutilation that makes Christ of no advantage. Philippians 3:2, Galatians 5:2. Why model baptism after something condemned? Church, Scripture is clear. God doesn't hold children accountable until moral consciousness. Jesus waited under authority despite exceptional maturity. Children are already heirs, already holy, already possess the kingdom, but remain under guardians until the appointed time. Let them grow until they meet all three requirements: accountability, autonomy, and readiness to receive their inheritance. Then baptism means everything it should. That is worth waiting for.